This
Green Bay.
conference will now be recorded.
My name is Karen Schley, and it has been my pleasure to coordinate this event. On behalf of the League, I would like to thank the candidates for participating in this forum. Incumbent Dan Rodden and challenger Nick Bonafilia. Incumbent Michelle Eckert has declined our invitation to participate. The three candidates are running for two open seats on the Suamico Board of Trustees. The COVID-19 pandemic has made it necessary to hold forums with no live audience. Going forward, in order to allow the voters to meet the candidates and become educated about the important issues in upcoming elections, it is necessary for us to hold forums in this manner, at least for the time being. The general spring election is Tuesday, April 2nd. Tuesday, April 6th. Because of the current pandemic, absentee voting or vote by mail has become very popular. Because of this, we wanted to hold this and other forums early so the voters can make an informed choice. Because of the different devices that individuals are using to join us, some windows or squares may be larger. That is not intended to favor any one candidate. Folks in the audience may improve their viewing experience by selecting View Active Cameras at the top of their screen. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Next, the questions will rotate between the candidates, with each being given a timed 2-minute answer opportunity. In closing, each candidate will have 2 minutes for final remarks, no rebuttals. Questions have been gathered ahead of time and sorted for duplication. Viewers can still submit questions to the candidates during the forum. Remember, the questions must be questions that all candidates can answer, and they need to be appropriate and pertaining to the issues. The email address is to submit the questions during the forum is League of Women Voters of Greater Green Bay Forums 20@gmail.com. That email address is on the screen this evening during the forum. The Village of Suamico Trustee Forum will be on our Facebook page, on our website, and on YouTube. The League of Women Voters of the United States recommends that all League forums fall within the FCC regulations and will only allow audio, video to be broadcast in its entirety, except by the media reporting on the event. Before we start, I would like to thank the many League members who helped to make this forum possible, with a special thank you to Steve Hero, a League member who has stepped up to guide us in the technology we needed. The League moderator this evening is Jean Marsh. Jean is an active League member on the League of Women Voters Board. She is the past president of the Green Bay School Board, and she is currently the chairperson for the League of Women Voters Healthcare Committee. Enjoy the forum this evening, and just remember, it's very important that you vote.
Thank you, Karen, and welcome to our candidates, Dan Rodden and Nick Bonafilia, and welcome to our virtual audience watching from the safety of your home. Thank you for taking time to attend this forum to become informed about this election. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government. It influences public participation of citizens through education and advocacy. The League never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. As Karen stated, questions have been submitted in advance, and we also welcome questions from our audience during the program. League member Gail Hohenstein will review the questions and send them to me so that I can present them to the candidates. With this being a virtual forum, the candidate who selected a number closest to a predetermined number will begin first, and I will alternate questions between candidates so that each candidate has the opportunity to respond first. The forum will run for 1 hour, and we will begin with Dan Rodden with his opening 2-minute statement. Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Jean. And I thought I recognized you. I see some of the Green Bay School District board meetings and some of that information coming out, so I thought I recognized you. But to all that's on this call, thank you for allowing me to participate, to give my viewpoints in the things that I've accomplished on the board over the last 9 years. I love in-person meetings, but unfortunately, obviously, due to COVID-19, it's required us to do a online forum such as this. And again, excited to be here. So like I stated, I've been in this role for 9 years. It's been a pleasure serving the residents of Brown County, or not only Brown County, but Suamico. And over this last 9 years, we've covered a lot of area as a village. And some of those areas that I like to touch on briefly are, first and most importantly, is road improvements. When we did our comprehensive plan survey, roads were extremely important to people. And so over the last 7 years, we've added $100,000 a year to our roads. One of those reasons why we're doing that is so we prevent borrowing. So if we add it into the budget each year, it prevents the future borrowing or current borrowing of money to improve our roads. One of the other things that I've been working on since 2014 is land bank mitigation. There's lots I could talk about on this, but it's an opportunity for the village to have revenues in the $5 million range. And each year we do a budget. Each year we review every opportunity and we go line by line. This year we had a reassessment and we were actually able to drop the mill rate down by 98 cents. And then obviously a love for my community. The school district I'm involved with, the village of Howard I'm involved with, all of the different partnerships I'm involved with. So I appreciate, again, this opportunity.
Okay, Nick Bonafilia, if you would please unmute yourself and your 2-minute opening statement.
All right. Well, also thanks, Karen. Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Gail. Thanks, League of Women Voters in Greater Green Bay. I appreciate, just like Dan said, you guys putting on this event, and I appreciate everybody tuning in so that they can make an informed decision when they go out to vote on April 6th or beforehand if you end up voting absentee. So I don't have quite as many laurels to speak about as Dan does. So I'm going to speak a little bit about who I am and my background. So by trade, I'm a chemical engineer, but today I'm a manager at a food manufacturing plant, actually a pickle manufacturing plant. You can see the pickles up above me. So I'm actually trusted with responsibility for nearly 200 employees and a budget of over $7 million, which is about the same size as the budget of Suamico. I'm also a referee for lacrosse at Bayport and across the state. And I'm an elected member of the Wisconsin Lacrosse Officials Association board, where I'm the communications director. So in short, Suamico deserves trustworthy, forward-looking, thoughtful leaders who can execute plans and deliver results. I've proven that with my business track record, that I'm capable of doing that. Suamicans can feel confident that together we can deliver on the planned improvements to parks and infrastructure while supporting community engagement events, small businesses, and responsible development. And all of those things are outlined in the comprehensive plan and strategic plan that the village has put together over the past 5-10 years. So I think now we're in a position where we need to execute on those plans. We need somebody that can get things done, deliver what we've been asked to do. And I'm well positioned with my background to be able to do that. So I'm very humbled to be able to ask for your vote on April 6th. And I hope you all are able to come out and make an informed choice. And I hope that I can have your vote.
Okay. The first question will be directed to you, Nick. What are the Suamico residents telling you are the most important issues, and how will you address them?
Yeah, so there's a few recurring themes that I've heard in all the phone calls and conversations that I've had talking with Suamicans, getting my signatures to even get on the ballot. People are very eager to share with me their concerns on sewer costs if they live in a watered and sewered area that's affected by new water. People are concerned, believe it or not, about some of the speed limits. I know Dan is part of the Public Safety Committee, I believe. I hear a lot of concerns about speed limits east of I-41. Especially folks want a safe neighborhood for their children. They want to feel safe being pedestrians walking around. And I think that's a theme that I hear as well talking to people. People want Suamico to remain rural. They want our downtown areas to be walkable, right? And they want us to move in a direction where we're not growing in a strip development built up type fashion. we're growing in a way that lends itself to walkable, livable community development, such as maybe what we see downtown in Vickery Village versus the development on Lineville Road. On top of that, I hear concerns around ATV use and UTV use on the roads. I know depending on what neighborhood of town people live in, people tend to have very strong views. I also hear, like Dan alluded to, concerns about infrastructure and roads. And the infrastructure item ties right back into where we started with the sewer. I've heard questions and concerns around the nature of development. What are we going to do with the empty space on Lineville Road where Shopco used to be? How are we going to continue to grow in a way that doesn't infringe upon people's rural views and on their backyards? So I think there's a way for us to consider all of those concerns when we're making decisions in Village Hall.
Okay, Dan, would you like to respond to that question, please?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the sewer rates in the water and sewer areas of our village are a huge concern. The substantial year-over-year increases have continued to be a concern. And finally, after speaking to it for several years, we are finally getting a voice on that board. They're working towards it right now. The administrators from all different municipalities, along with board members, have all gotten together and said, hey, we need a voice. We've petitioned our Brown County executive, and it looks like it's going to be going through. So, you know, that concern will still be a concern for years to come, but it would be alleviated a little bit by finally having a voice on that board. The other section of the sewer rate is users and getting users on that system. Chambers Hill subdivision has finally kicked off after years of review and ideas. As you can see, if you go down Velp Avenue, that has taken place. Another area of concern is taxes. You know, taxes are always a concern for most residents, and we get most of the tax questions directed to us because we are the village. Some of those tax questions are actually better suited for the school district because those are where some of the substantial increases have come from. A couple of other things that we've been able to do downtown, you know, Tunes on Tuesday, some of those things, we're going to be enhancing those this summer and finally finishing the roadway in downtown Suamico. That's going to be repaved with sidewalks so people can walk down those roads. So that's already in the works. Our fire station will be open here in a couple weeks, our new one, and our old one is already sold. That's looking to be a microbrewery with like a music hall built into it. So that's exciting. And then obviously continued improvements with our law enforcement.
The next question, we'll start with Dan and then Nick. If elected or re-elected as a Suamico trustee, what do you hope to accomplish during your tenure?
So there's a lot of projects that are hanging out there that we've started. One of those biggest projects, and I touched on in my opening, was the land bank mitigation project. That started back in 2014 as an idea. What that really is, it's up on Northfield Road, right off of Highway J, and it's an area of lowland, low quality farmland that the village owns. We weren't getting a whole lot of dollars for farming it, and so we started looking at what does it look like to change this into a land bank mitigation. And this opportunity that we have is finally coming around. Construction to start this summer on that. And really the nuts and bolts of it is we're looking for about 65 credits. Each one of those credits is worth about $100,000 each. So that's $6.5 million to the village. There is a couple partners, residents that own homes in that area and land that are also part of this. So we won't get that whole amount, but our spend should be under $1 million. So our net to the village and to those residents that are partners with us should be about $5 to $5.5 million. That's substantial when you have huge projects that are upcoming, like the Lineville Road reconstruction. They're looking at doing a roundabout at White Pine by Chambers Hill there. And so those dollars will really benefit those projects and be able to continue to keep our tax rate low and avoid borrowing for money. So those are some of the big projects. I touched on the downtown area. That's another big project. And then the park that is going to be finished up, and we're going to be able to put a parking lot in there that's going to really highlight the things that we're already doing downtown, like the ADA accessible kayak launch that we put in last year. And that whole downtown feel is going to be great.
Nick, would you respond to that question,
Yeah.
please?
Those are all great answers that Dan provided. You know, I 100% agree that we need to invest further in our roads and especially in our parks. And that's also what the Suamico residents have told us in the survey that went out last year. We have a capital plan for the village that's already been laid out. I think where it's possible, we need to work on executing the ideas that have already been agreed on by the village trustees, that have already been vetted and approved to move forward. I don't think we're in a position right now to be ideating, or I'm certainly not in a position to be ideating what the next big bets are. I think our task and our mandate is to execute the plan that's already laid out ahead of us. We have a 2021 through 2023 strategic plan that has a number of items that frankly we just need to execute on. That includes bringing water well, I believe it's number 2, back online. I believe it had, was it Dan, some radon issues. So getting that back online, finding ways apart from just infilling the already sewered and watered areas that are served by new water to further defray the costs of sewer. And maybe that means partnering with other municipalities. Maybe that means reaching out to some of the experts and resources across the state. There's other municipalities that are able to provide sewer services without breaking the bank. I think we need to tap into that expertise and be humble enough to ask for help. Further, one of the big challenges is going to be how do we continue to provide for our growing population and our aging population without compromising our rural values. So I think there needs to be a strong focus over the next 3 years in carefully vetting any development opportunities and making sure that we're incenting the right type of development and quality sustainable projects.
Okay, Nick, the next question will start with you. Of all the duties that a Village of Suamico trustee performs, which do you feel is the most important and why?
Yeah, I think the number one important role of a village trustee, and of course there's the administrative aspects like making legislative decisions, how do we allocate our dollars, making executive decisions, providing work instruction to the different department heads. But above and beyond that, I think the role of a trustee as, I view the trustee as a front line for government, meaning it's the bottom level closest to the people. So that means role modeling the right behaviors, right, engaging with people. We're in a better position, the village trustees, or I hope to be a village trustee, to engage with the constituents than any other politicians in our whole political sphere. So making sure that we're listening, making sure that we're hearing our constituents, that we're engaging with people, finding ways to get people excited about and involved in local government. I really think that's the number one responsibility of a village trustee. And I know that's a soft answer. Beyond that, making sure that we're good custodians of our constituents' dollars and our taxpayers' dollars is a huge, huge responsibility. We have a budget of I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $7 million. And there's a lot of good we could do with that, especially if we're thoughtful and careful with how we spend that. So one of the ways where I'd like to apply just some of my business experience, and I know Dan is deeply involved in business as well, is looking for waste opportunities. I think we need to use our executive authority to set aggressive performance objectives for all of the different department heads in the village to make sure that we're actively seeking out opportunities for cost savings within our departments, if you're a department head, every single year, to make sure that we're able to pull forward on these capital projects and the strategic plans and get things done quickly without borrowing, and making good use of all our taxpayer dollars.
Dan, if you'd like to respond.
Yeah, before you start that clock real quick. So just to answer Nick's question about the radon, Yeah, you're right. Radon is an interesting issue in the village for you guys. I don't know how many people are on this call or on our well water, our village
I
water,
think,
but yeah, you're right. Radon's interesting.
I think we'll start the clock.
Yep, very good. So to answer your question, being the voice of our residents, listening to our residents, uh, those surveys are very important because they provide us direction. One of the other things that I think is important and imperative as a village trustee is to be involved in the community. Out of the 6 trustees and the village president, over the last 9 years, I think I've been the most active out there in the community. I visit with the HSSD administration. I go to their meetings. I go to their legislative linkage meetings. I deal with the village of Howard and collaborate with them on opportunities to partner together, and then also reaching beyond that and talking with the Brown County folks and also state folks to be able to say, hey, this is what Suamico needs. How can we provide that? A great example of that came out of our last linkage meeting with COVID-19 and the cost of COVID-19 to not only the village, but also the school district. We were able to collaborate an opportunity and a way to keep those COVID dollars local and not send them back to the state level. And what we did is the rules allowed us to purchase supplies for the school district. So we basically donated supplies to the school district with our leftover COVID dollars to help them and service them. One of the other things that is important for the village trustee, and Nick touched on it, is our taxes and being good stewards of our money that we have. Just a real brief example of that, this last year, salt is an expensive item that we purchase each winter. And to save our costs and to be able to have enough salt to make it through the winter, we actually built a second salt vault at our municipal center to be able to store additional salt. And that also has provided overall arching tax savings. And then obviously improvement on roads and focusing on roads.
Okay, thank you. The next question will start with you, Dan. If budget were not an issue, what project might you like the trustees to take on?
If budgets weren't a constraint, there's all sorts of great things. Something that's always been talked about, and I don't want to say it's a running joke, but there's always a chuckle when it gets brought up, is a splash pad in one of our parks for our kids. They're extremely expensive to put together, especially in a rural area. But a splash pad for our kids at one of our parks would be one of those items that if a budget wasn't an issue, it would be neat to have an area for families to gather, to cool off. But something else that I think is imperative, and if money wasn't, difficult to get to, is be access to the bay. A real great access to our natural resources that we have. We're blessed as a community to have the bay right in our backyard, to have the Suamico River, and I think it would be great to be able to have those funds to be able to create a robust and neat park along the river, or a park on the bay, if we had that ability in those funds. The other thing is, if budgets weren't an issue as well, we have a considerable issue right now with the lake levels being as high as they are. And we have several roads that are along the bay, and most of you guys probably even know that they flood out. When there's a northeast wind, it is not a good situation down there, not only for the residents, but for any emergency personnel that has to get down in that area. And if money wasn't an issue, I'd love to raise all those roads, redesign some of these folks' yards and homes to be able to protect them. So those are some of the things. If money wasn't an issue and we had an abundance of money, those would be some of the extra items that I'd love to do. One last thing that if money was an issue, and it's still something that we're going to have to do regardless of money, is get up a second water tower over in the western part of the village to get those guys over there better water pressure.
Okay, Nick, if money wasn't an issue, what would your choice be?
I have some comments prepared, but nothing I have prepared comes close to a splash pad. That's an awesome idea. Now, I love where Dan's head is at in terms of prioritizing the experience of the people that live here and making sure that it's a place where we can engage in recreation and get in touch with the outdoors. I also think that one aspect of that is creating an exciting, walkable, livable downtown area. And I know if you ask somebody, hey, where is Suamico's downtown, you might get different answers. But I would love to see us create financial incentives and subsidies and do whatever needs to be done financially to create an even more robust and vibrant, walkable downtown with pedestrian-focused storefronts, restaurants, businesses, to make Suamico an exciting place to do business, an exciting place to come and engage with other members of the community and go out and grab a bite to eat, grab a drink, especially in a post-COVID environment. On top of that, I do love the idea of further investing in our parks and different sporting facilities, whether that's upgrading our existing, parks, baseball parks. We've already done great work with the boat launch down by Fireman's Park. That's fantastic. So expanding on some of those recreational opportunities in the village would also be a priority if we had unlimited budget. I mean, man, we could do all those roundabouts that Dan alluded to. We could get nice street lamps, make our downtown really look beautiful in a place that attracts residents and makes people that come to town say, hey, gee, this is a place I might really want to live. And if I can't live here, it's a place I'd really love to visit.
Okay, thank you. We'll start the next question with you, Nick. What are your thoughts on the current and proposed budget for the village of Suamico?
Yeah, I can't say anything bad about what the existing Board of Trustees has done in terms of a budget. Like Dan said, it's clear that they've been diligent and gone line through line by the budget. But there's an approach to budget that we apply in the business world that's, yes, we go line by line, but I think we really need to challenge ourselves to not just go line by line and say, yes, that's a good idea, but really understand, hey, what makes up those constituent line items? Those line items, if you look at them, they're pretty big and blocky. For instance, if you look at the Suamico budget, we don't have a zillion different line items that make up the $2 million police budget. It's just a $2 million police line item with a handful of sub-line items beneath it. So I think we really need to be diligent in picking apart what makes up those budget, what makes up the Parks Department budget, the Recreation Department, I'm sorry, the Public Works Department budget, the Recreation Department budget, and really challenge ourselves to be diligent in deep diving. And maybe we set up some type of routine where we deep dive into a different part of the budget on a regular routine. But there's all sorts of things that we can unpack that I wouldn't be able to understand until I really sat down with some of the department leaders and understood what was making up their budget. So I think we just need to be diligent in unpacking beyond the line items, what's making up those line items, and really understanding, are we exploring all the possible opportunities to use those dollars effectively. So it's not poorly done by any stretch of the imagination. They have a good budget. I just think we need to challenge ourselves and push ourselves a little more to find those dollars so that we can use them in a way that makes Suamico a better place for everybody and pulls forward some of these awesome initiatives that we're talking about.
Okay. Dan, if you'd address the question, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2012, when I first got on the board, a year prior to that, our old village president, Patty Jellin, really they stripped the budget. And I believe that actual budget meeting was several days long. They looked at every line item down to the candy that they spent at the fire station for parades. And we've taken that model, we've modified it a little bit throughout the years, but we still each year have a day that we all come together as board members, as administration, and as department heads. And each department head comes in, presents their budget. We talk about their capital expenses for that year. We talk about, can we afford them? Can we not afford them? Do we need to push them to a future year, or can we get that done in that particular year? Again, each year it's a continued focus on all of our highlights, our public service, public works, law enforcement. That contract is pretty standard. let's say we wanted to cut 1% out of our law enforcement budget. Well, that would mean one officer or one deputy that we would no longer have on the streets of Suamico. That is a really tight budget. That particular budget is set with Brown County because we utilize their services, and each year the increases within that budget are set. Now, we have had plenty of argument about detective services and the additional costs of detective services for our community, and that's been an ongoing issue. But for overall, we've done a great job with that budget. One of the other things that we've done a lot of is sinking funds. Not only do we have a fund set up that has, I believe right now, near $1 million or more for capital, vehicles, fire trucks, those kind of things, but also a sinking fund for our facilities, meaning that if a road or if a roof goes out, we have the funds available to put a new roof on that facility.
Okay. The next question, we'll start with Dan. Are you expecting a shortfall in money from the state or county due to the pandemic?
No, I think that we've been pretty stable. There may be a little bit of a shortfall in the DOT monies coming to us, but I don't believe, and I'd have to check with our administration, I do not believe that there's any shortfalls. Again, when we look at our budget and we go through our budget each year, even this last fall when we came together and went through the budget, the state or federal dollars that's allocated to the village don't affect overall what we do. Real briefly with that, back when Governor Walker had eliminated the state tax, property taxes on our bills, and I think he did a pretty big victory lap on that. And I was a little bit frustrated with that because though I agree with that decision, I think better communication around the fact that local municipalities may have to increase our budgets to make up for that difference. And do I believe that those dollars should be allocated at a local level versus a state level? Absolutely, because we're the ones that know best what we needed for our community. And so, that was the only oddity as of late when that money's dried up and we had to push and look at our budget to make up those dollars and or increase our taxes. And I think we did a great job navigating that and doing the best that we could with those negative dollars.
Nick, would you respond to the question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just comment real quick that, as somebody that's responsible for a $7 million budget, there's no way I could unpack that whole budget in one day. I mean, it takes some effort and some time to go through. But yeah, so money is always tight. I don't have the same crystal ball that Dan has because I'm not involved in some of the same discussions that Dan has. But I can tell you, driving around town, I see businesses that are open and that are healthy. I don't see foreclosure signs around, right? So I don't see there being a tax issue, right? And Dan has even mentioned that they've been able to lower the mill rate, which is awesome. So looking in the crystal ball, it looks like we're going to be healthy in the immediate term just based off of the signs I get. And now that said, we always need to be diligent, right? And we always need to be prepared for things to change. So continuing to set aside money for rainy days, right? Pay down some of our existing debt while we have the opportunity, so that if we need to borrow, we're borrowing it now when interest rates are low, and that we have the wiggle room to be effective if there is a crunch that ends up coming, whether it's in 6 months or 6 years, right? So it's important that the village trustees are forward-looking, right? And we need to anticipate and build plans that accommodate, the possibility that, hey, the political situation in Madison may change, right? And that could, like Dan alluded to, drastically change our village balance sheet and the financial situations of the folks in town. So I think we just need to be thoughtful, forward-looking, and anticipate whatever may come down the pipeline. But again, driving around town, it looks healthy. People are doing well. People are working. I think we're very, very lucky to be insulated from a lot of the negative effects that some other communities have had from the COVID pandemic.
Okay. Nick, we'll address the next question to you first. Should the board respond proactively and not reactively when policy making, and how can the trustees make this happen?
Well, of course, that's a loaded question. Of course, we need to be proactive. Nobody in their right mind would say we need to be reactive. But the way we do that is and right, getting a poll out to the villagers, right, to understand what's on their needs presently, or what's on their mind presently, or what their needs are presently. The villagers are not always going to be looking 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the pipeline. That's the village trustee's responsibility to parse that information on what's the immediate need, what are the residents calling for, what are our neighbors calling for, and intersperse that with our judgment and the judgment of the experts in the state and in our other municipalities and in our village, right? We have experts that are in every single department in our village. So we need to fold in the immediate need with the future need. And that future need, nobody can see the future. But this is why we need to rely on the experts in our village, experts across the state, and rely on the judgment of the trustees to be forward-looking. So one example I would provide is, looking at our strategic plan. There's a lot of forward-looking things in our strategic plan. For instance, doing a flood mitigation study to look into the rising lake waters and ways where we might want to abate that. The study would provide a means for us to apply for state grants and federal grants. But there are not Dan, but there are some trustee members that have voted against these studies that are really going to tee us up for future success. And I would urge everybody that's voting on April 6th to think about that and vote for trustees that are going to be forward looking and engage in some of those projects that are not going to pay dividends this year or next year, but they're going to pay dividends down the road rather.
Dan, if you would respond to the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely proactive. I try, over the last 9 years, I've tried to be proactive as much as possible. And I think proactive comes with communication. Communicating with the residents, communicating with the business owners, communicating with the school district, communicating with the other villages around us to get ahead of any potential issue or any storms that may be on our horizon. A great example of that is this land bank mitigation that I talked about. This is a huge opportunity for our village to gain some dollars without getting those dollars from taxes. And the end of that game is that we still own that property. That property is a robust wetlands now. And there's a lot of great things that come from that. And that's truly being proactive. It's been a long struggle. It's been a long road. But that's a proactive approach to dollars that we need. Being proactive with the Lineville Reconstruction Project, working with the village of Howard, working with Brown County, and working with our residents to understand what they want and what we need along that corridor. And I think most importantly, talking with the businesses along that corridor. One of the other things that we really try to be proactive on as of late is the year-over-year substantial increases coming from new water. We can talk a lot, we can complain, we can be frustrated, but one of the last board meetings that I was at, we have this concept or this thought about, hey, we need representation on that board, and that is in the works finally. Administrators are coming together from different municipalities, the boards are coming together. Again, we've talked to the Brown County executive, and we are going to have a voice on that board to help with some of those costs. And then one other real quick one is the proactive approach to our fire station that is going to be coming offline. We've already have that building sold. It's ready to go into the next owner once we move out of it and move into our new fire station.
Okay. Dan, we'll start with you with the next question. Some feel that Suamico doesn't have a village center. Do you think this is true? And what do you think makes the heart of a village?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, our rural character is something that drove me out to this area. I love our community. I love how we have a central location, and some call that Vickery Village. Some call that historic downtown Suamico. It has all sorts of different names, but that is really our heart. And that is where we've been focusing. That's actually a TIF district. A lot of great things are happening within that area, and that truly, I feel, is the heart of our community, is downtown Suamico. So some of the things that we've done over the last couple of years to enhance that area and to draw people into that area: Tunes on Tuesday, providing businesses opportunities to grow in their own way within that area, be it a building, be it, again, Tunes on Tuesday, but really listening to the stakeholders down there. We've done a great job over the last, I'm going to say, five years or more. We've done a great job of really communicating with those stakeholders down in that area, may it be the Vickeries or the Worst that have a lot of value down there. May it be Jamie from the Four-Way Bar. There's a lot of communication. One of the other things that we did a couple years ago, and those that go down in that area, we have common parking areas now with paths that go back into the Vickery area. We also have another common area that's kind of behind Design a la Mode for people to actually be able to get down there, walk around. We put the little walkway underneath the railroad trestle so you can get to Fireman's Park easy. We've enhanced that with the ADA accessible kayak launch now. And our last piece of this puzzle is redoing that road, providing walkways for people to walk up and down. And that is happening. We just bid it out. We just got our bids back. In fact, the last board meeting, we just accepted those bids. So that roadway is being done this summer. And that's really one of the last pieces of that puzzle to really make that our downtown.
Okay. Nick, if you would please respond to the question.
Yeah, I would agree. Vickery Village is absolutely, or historic downtown Suamico is absolutely our village center. And like Dan, I appreciate the rural aspect of Suamico. I got 20 taps in my maple trees this time of year, so I'm very much enjoying the rural aspect of Suamico, and that's the reason why I'm here. So what really makes that the village center is the fact that it's livable, it's walkable, it's pedestrian focused, it's pedestrian, kayaker, snowmobiler friendly, which is fantastic. And Dan's absolutely right. They've done some amazing work in making that even more accessible and even more appealing. We have walking trails, we have a place for people to put in their kayaks. But one thing I still find, I mean, even with the fire station becoming a microbrewery, even with the live music, short of drinking or live music, I don't have a lot of reasons to go down to Vickery Village. So I think we just need to explore different ways or different businesses that we could incent to come to that area, that would give more people a reason to engage with that area. And I love music and drinking as much as the next person, but there's other ways to get people to engage in downtown activity. And I think we need to explore what some of those options are. Maybe it means different types of parks or playgrounds in that area. Maybe it means different types of businesses that we're incenting or drawing to the area. I think we need to have a variety of options for people to engage with the village center. And right now it's growing and we have some really cool stuff down there, but I think your activity choices are still just a little bit limited, and we can do a little bit more to broaden that and make it more appealing to families and everybody else.
Okay. Nick, we'll address the next question to you first. How do you feel about the state mask mandate? Do you feel it should be enforced in Suamico, and who should do the enforcement?
Okay, so if you read the state mask mandate, what the governor says is that he hopes all Wisconsinites will step up and do the right thing and voluntarily comply. And I hope that too. I wear a mask in public. I wear a mask at work. We've required masks at work since the very first CDC guidance came out that we're recommending people wear masks. We've been abundantly cautious where I work, and I can take that as a personal accomplishment because I'm a member of the management here, right? Now, if you read further into the mask mandate, because I think, so first of all, I support the mask mandate, right? It's in line with CDC guidelines. It's 100% what we need to do. And I hope that people do the right thing. But I think the crux of your question is asking about enforcement and what do we do? I know that in some bars, if you go to, I'm not going to call out individual bars. If you go to some bars, people are all masked up unless they're drinking their beer. And if you go to other bars, people are not masked up. In fact, the bartender's pouring shots from mouth to mouth along the top of the bar. So there's a huge breadth of levels of compliance, even within our village. So it's a very difficult question, but what I would suggest is that we enforce willful violations with essential businesses. So this means if you're a grocery store, if you're a dentist's office, if you're a doctor's office, I would think that the village police would enforce by statute a civil fine for violations, right? If you're a bar or you're a restaurant, you're a non-essential business. This may not be a popular opinion, but I believe that every Suamican has a choice whether or not you go to those businesses or not. You do not have to patronize those businesses. You have the option to stay home. I need to go to the grocery store. I need to go to the dentist. I need to go to the doctor. Those areas need to be in compliance, but I'm less willing to enforce them in bars and restaurants and in our small businesses.
Okay, Dan, if you would please respond to the question.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You know, those are state level mandates by our governor. In fact, when the night the first mandate went in effect, I actually called our deputy, one of our DEO officers, and said, how do we enforce this within our village? What rights do we have to enforce it? What ordinances do we have to enforce it? And we had a great conversation. In fact, that conversation extended into the next day with our administration and then other board members. Really, our enforcement is very limited as far as a law enforcement standpoint. The only thing that they could ever do is issue a I'm blanking here, but basically it has to go to the county attorney, attorney referral, I believe it's called, is the only thing that they can actually issue, and then the district attorney has to take it from there. So our law enforcement does not have the ability to be able to mandate someone wear a mask. Now they do have the ability to ask someone to leave a facility if that facility so chooses to enforce masks. But as of, you know, just the simple idea that we can enforce anything, we cannot. And I was one of the first trustees. I actually was the first trustee that got ahead of that and figured out what we could and could not do. So it was very quick work there. Now, as far as the mask mandate itself, you know, I was just with my boss traveling throughout northern Wisconsin today. We both traveled with masks on. You know, I work for a Fortune 500 company, and we do enforce mask mandates.
The next question will start with you, Dan. What are your feelings about authorizing ATVs on roadways like neighborhood streets? Do you feel differently about golf carts?
That's a loaded question because there's a lot going on in the village as far as golf carts and ATV, UTVs. I chair a subcommittee right now. We just had our first meeting Tuesday evening regarding UTV and ATV usage. And right now we're exploring every option. We're looking at ordinances. We're looking at the viability to do so, where to do so. There's a lot of charges that the village board has given the subcommittee to gather information. Everything from accidents to what equipment, if we did allow it, what equipment we would require. I believe we'll probably have 5 or 6 meetings before we even provide information to the public safety and health committee. And from there, it would have to go to the board for final review. I don't have a final opinion on it yet. We're still gathering information. You know, I own a UTV. I enjoy driving it. I enjoy driving it up north. I enjoy driving it where I can drive it legally. And there is an opportunity with the right laws in the right areas of the village that this may be viable. One of the great areas right now is along the bay up north where all the ice fishermen are. We have a huge issue with the amount of trucks and cars parked alongside the road that we can't get our safety equipment down into that area in case there was a fire, there was an accident. And so that's one of the first areas that we're really looking at going, all right, if we allow these fishermen to get out on the ice with their UTVs and ATVs and they're parking a little bit further away from those roads, So we can allow, even if we built a parking lot for them, so we allow them to get down on the ice, enjoy fishing, or whatever activities they're doing out in the bay, but we can still get our safety equipment down there. That's one of the first things that we're really looking at doing. And then as far as addressing golf carts are interesting. They are allowed in the Moose Creek area right now.
Okay. Nick, if you would please respond.
Yeah, I love that Dan started with public safety, because I think that needs to be the #1 concern in whether we're considering whether or not to allow ATVs or UTVs. And I'm 100% prepared to defer to the Public Safety Committee's recommendation on what they determine based on their consulting of residents and experts on what's safe and what's not. Now, that said, what I would recommend is I would like to see, similar to what we did with golf carts, neighborhood specific ordinances. I think there's certainly some neighborhoods where the constituents would not desire UTVs, but there's some neighborhoods where the constituents would. I think the best way for us to serve our diverse constituents would be to have neighborhood by neighborhood ordinances. Again, based off of recommendations on what's safe and what's not and what the residents desire. I do know that my neighbor makes sure that I know this. That was one of the first things he told me when I moved to the area. He said, this is the first community and the last community on the way to the North Woods that does not allow UTVs on the public roadway. So I live about, I don't know, a half mile from the little Suamico-Sobieski border. And all of my neighbors with UTVs, I don't have a UTV yet, maybe someday, they can't take their UTVs up north. So what they do is they drive a couple miles up the road, park their trailers, get their UTVs off, and then off to the trails and up to the North Woods. It doesn't have to be that way, right? With smart legislation and smart ordinancing, we can make this even more, we can make Suamico even more of an appealing place for people that are into recreation and the outdoors. I think we just need to be smart and careful and consider the different needs of the different neighborhoods. Some of the subdivisions, like down by Lineville, are very, very different and have very different needs than the rural areas up by Pulaski and Sobieski.
Okay. The next question is a rather long one. At the village board meeting of November 11th, the board requested that options be presented to utilize proceeds from the sale of SU 23 and Fire Station number 1 to number 1, pay down the callable debt, or number 2, invest the proceeds and reduce the 2020 borrowing for Lineville and White Pine by an equivalent amount. Which option do you prefer and why? And we'll start with Nick.
Yeah, for me, maybe I'm making this one too simple, but interest rates are at all-time historic lows. I don't know what the interest rates are on the notes that are proposed to be paid down or were proposed to be paid down, but just going off of back of the napkin math, the interest rates were higher a few years ago than they are now. If we have debt that's at a higher borrowing rate than what's available at the market now, I would think we should pay down that debt and borrow at the lower interest rate. It may seem like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but really we're buying down our interest rate and ensuring that we're able to borrow at a good smart rate, because in the future, 6 months down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, we may not have the opportunity to borrow at these historic low interest rates. And we need to respond to the incentives that the banks and the Fed are giving us by lowering the interest rates. And we need to spend now while the borrowing's cheap.
Okay. Dan, if you would respond, please.
Yeah, I was one of the village trustees that actually requested we do a review. Do we pay down debt, or do we, take that money and spend it towards the Lineville reconstruction? And I wanted a study, and we wanted a study done. Unfair to Nick on this question. That study found that paying down debt, and I believe if the number is correct, I think it was $78,000 in savings versus using that money for the Lineville reconstruction. It was an easy choice for the village board to make on where to direct those dollars, and because of the study that our village administration did for us. So a real simple answer to that question is to pay down the debt it made financial sense for the village. It made financial sense for our residents.
Okay. The next question will start with you, Dan. Census numbers are delayed by 6 months in this important year when maps will be redrawn. Are there any plans for drawing local maps before the census numbers are fully in? What do you think this should happen?
That's really a state issue. The local maps, we do have wards within the village of Suamico. Those wards only kind of dictate where you vote and not who you vote for, meaning, I don't represent Ward 1 through 4, or Nick doesn't represent, a different set of wards. We're trustees at large, and so we have to represent the entire village. So any kind of local map or redrawing of local maps for different wards, really, they could be redrawn because of the population shift within the village, but that's it. There's not implications to redrawing those that I gain X amount of residents in a ward that I represent. I represent all the wards. So it really doesn't affect us at a local level. Now, as a state level, that's up for the state to decide. And obviously there's a lot of partisan politics involved with that, that really we try to keep out of the local government. We've done a great job as a village to come together, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of any ideas we have at the state level or at the federal level. We've really come together as a village to do what's best for all the people that live in Suamico. And so when I make decisions, I don't make decisions in the best interest of a couple people over here or a group over here that want this. I really look at how does it benefit Suamico as a whole? How does it benefit the way we live as a whole? And how it affects our residents, our businesses, and those are the decisions that I make. So I know that's a roundabout answer, but really, when it comes to redistricting, that's a state level, not a local level decision.
Okay, Nick, if you would respond, please.
Yeah, I'm happy Dan took that one first because that question perplexed me a little bit. So by statute, both congressional and state legislative district boundaries are drawn by the Wisconsin State Legislature, full stop, right? Wards, like Dan said, are not super duper relevant in Suamico. Now that said, I understand what you might be alluding to is the fact that that we don't have the census numbers fully in, right? So as an engineer by training, I'd be remiss if I didn't add that we, meaning whether you're in state government, local government, or just in business, or maybe you're a small business owner, you need to make evidence-based decisions. And that's extremely difficult to do with incomplete or inconsistent data. So where possible, I think we need to have a complete data set before we start running and gunning and making decisions, right? But like Dan alluded to, that is really not for the Village Board of Trustees to decide. That's a Wisconsin State Legislature issue. But you can certainly have your say in the matter on April 6th when you go to the ballot in that issue as well.
Okay. According to my time, we have 3 more minutes before the half of the hour. And so we will ask for your closing comments. And because we started with Dan, we'll start with you, Nick, for your closing comments. 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, so, oh, I think the timer's showing, there we go. Yeah, so my closing comments are really simple, guys. I don't have an agenda or some master plan for things that we need to get done or we need to change in the state I'm sorry, talking about state legislature, in the village board. We just need village trustees that are willing to engage with people, that are willing to listen, that are willing to hear opposing arguments, even views that are different from their own before jumping to a conclusion or jumping to a snap judgment. So I think really what's up on April 6th is a test of character, right? So I hope that on April 6th, people in Suamico will vote for me because of my character, because I make evidence-based decisions, because I listen to people, right? And because I have a good attitude and I love my neighbors. So I hope that people remember that on April 6th. I hope that people trust me and they look at my track record and my business track record for making good, smart financial decisions. And I hope people recognize that they can trust me with their tax dollars and they can trust me at the village board. So please vote for me on April 6th. Thank you.
Okay. Dan, if you would offer your closing comments, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this community. I've enjoyed raising my family in this community. In 2008, we started building a home out here. 2009, we moved in. And so I've been in this community a long time. My junior summer of high school, my parents built a home on Lake Leon, and that's where I started loving this area. So I truly do love this community. I love our school district. I'm a champion of that school district. I'm a champion of all of our small businesses. And over the last 9 years, we've accomplished a lot as a village board and as a village. We've had a lot of growth along Lineville. We've had a lot of growth within the downtown area. We've done a lot of great projects. And really, I ask for your vote to continue those projects that I talked about tonight, that land bank mitigation, get that done so we have those dollars in the bank to be able to utilize for upcoming projects. Finish up the fire station project. Continue our efforts that we've done on the roads and continue our efforts that we've done in the budget process to be able to make sure that we maintain fair taxes out here. One of the great things that we were able to do, and I touched it on in my beginning comments, was the reevaluations that we all undertook this last summer, and taking all of that data and all of that information and be able to do a smart budget and be able to lower our mill rate by 98 cents. While still maintaining a secure budget. So those are some of the things that I want to continue as a village trustee. I enjoy it. I enjoy getting involved with the community. I enjoy getting my hands dirty when we need to. It's fun to give back, and that's really my mission, is giving back to this community. So I appreciate your vote on April 6th, or by absentee or in person, however you choose to go and vote and do your civic duty, but I greatly appreciate your vote. Thank you.
This ends our forum, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I'd like to thank you, Nick Bonafilia and Dan Rodan, for participating in this virtual forum and sharing your positions and perspectives. Thank you also to our audience for participating virtually and for submitting your thoughtful questions. We would also like to extend our appreciation to League Board Member Karen Schley for coordinating this forum, and League Member Steve Harrell for the technical work to set up and record the forum, and Don Dahlstrom, who has been our timekeeper. As a reminder, the recording of this forum is available on the League of Women Voters Green Bay Facebook page and website. Please remember to vote on April 6th, and you may register to vote online or by mail in Wisconsin, and the deadline is March 17th. You can register in person at your city, village, or town clerk's office, and the deadline is April 2nd. Wisconsin also allows voter registration at the polls on Election Day. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Greater Green Bay, again, I'd like to thank everybody for their participation. And again, please remember to vote by Tuesday, April 6th. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good job, Jean. Okay, I'll check supper, hun.